I'm eating and ranking every single meal that Scott from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World eats, and rating his taste and attitude towards food to determine if he's a gourmand or a complete food gremlin.
Bread makes you fat?
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a film based on the comic series of the same name. It's about a 20-something slacker who starts dating a 17-year-old. So yeah, questionable morals right from the start. But what about his taste in food? Is it any better? Spoiler alert, it's not looking great. Here's the thing. Scott doesn't eat much on screen. Most of the food in the film is consumed by other characters. So for the sake of this ranking, I'm including drinks and a few assumptions, because Scott doesn't give us a lot to work with. So let's begin. In the very first scene in the cold open, Scott is pouring something into a mug. It looks like some sort of cola, and it is most likely Coke Zero. The drink reappears throughout the film and might just make up the majority of Scott's diet.
Coke Zero is fine, but it does scream lazy 20-something slacker. This is a man who goes to get pizza with Knives Chow, and instead of getting anything to eat, opts for this instead. Is it because he's not hungry? Can he not afford it? Or does he only really eat when he's mooching off others? Either way, Coke Zero over a slice of pizza is peak gremlin energy. It's all fizz and no substance.
The next potential meal is the first time we see Scott actively choose something to eat. Scott spots 4 glorious slices of bacon in Wallace's apartment and just takes them. No hesitation, no permission given. And although he doesn't get to eat it, this does show a clear choice. Stealing bacon from your roommate is classic gremlin behaviour, so I'm frying up 4 slices of bacon in a frying pan and having it for lunch.
Only 4 slices of bacon on a plate is already questionable, but stealing it from your roommate really takes the mick. Wallace's frustration is completely justified. This is a man who treats other people's groceries like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
The next choice we see Scott make is at the apartment of Ramona Flowers.
What kind of tea do you want?
There's more than one kind?
We have blueberry, raspberry, ginseng, sleepy time, green tea with lemon and honey, liver disaster, ginger with honey, ginger without honey, vanilla almond, white truffle, blueberry chamomile, vanilla walnut, constant comment, and Earl Grey.
Scott picks sleepy tea from an array of options. So I found a sleepy tea from a local supermarket and I'm making myself a cup.
Sure, tea could be classy, but let's be real here. Scott hasn't chosen this because he's a tea connoisseur. He's chosen sleepy tea because it's the one that sounds like it might get him laid. Strategic sex-driven tea selection. Total gremlin move.
This next one is the one and only time we see Scott actively cooking or preparing himself food. This is Scott's moment to shine, or at least to try. He makes garlic bread for Ramona. You can see that he uses a garlic crusher and even has a somewhat half-decent setup to prepare it. I see no evidence of him making dough, so I imagine he's bought pre-bought bread. So with that, I've bought myself a loaf of sourdough and mixed some garlic, butter and parsley. Create some gorgeous slices of garlic bread.
This is the only time Scott puts any effort into food, and sure, it's only to impress a girl, but we'll give him credit where it's due. He does know his way around some garlic bread. Either that, or it's the only thing he knows how to make. Either way, it's points for effort.
Caramel macchiato. Or Pilgrim.
At a coffee shop, Scott orders a caramel macchiato, while being absolutely roasted by another character.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Can I get a caramel macchiato?
But instead of listening to her, he's more focused on his order. I could have prepared one of these myself, but in the true spirit of Scott Pilgrim, I've lazily bought a popular brand name.
This one feels a bit odd. A caramel macchiato, really? This feels shockingly refined. Maybe Scott does have a hidden passion for coffee, or maybe it's just that he likes the sound of caramel. Either way, this is a rare moment of sophistication in an otherwise gremlin-heavy diet. And it does give us a look into Scott's food preferences, giving him another reluctant gourmand point.
Fast forward a bit, and we get to another coffee. During a battle with the third evil ex, Scott tricks a vegan into drinking half and half, while he downs the soy milk.
While I am taking a moment to show off my interesting mug collection, this isn't a food choice, it's a weapon. Scott isn't drinking soy out of compassion, he's using it to cheat his way to victory, and compared to the other coffee choice previously, it's gremlin behaviour.
Let's talk about pizza. Pizza shows up multiple times in this film, on his date with knives, and there's a scene at a pizzeria. We don't ever see Scott eating it, but let's assume it's a big part of his diet. Scott is never making this by scratch, so I've ordered myself one, and yes, we'll be claiming it as a business expense.
Pizza is the ultimate lazy food, right? And Scott's entire vibe is pretty lazy, and pizza is definitely in this guy's top 3 food groups, but there is a distinction between making it yourself and just ordering yourself a greasy slice. It's a gremlin point.
Towards the end of the film, Scott is seen drinking gin and tonics. Gin and tonic gets an early mention in the film, making it one of the few deliberate callbacks to Scott's preferences.
What do you mean you don't drink? I distinctly remember you being very drunk on a couple of G&Ts.
Now, I could have bought a bottle of gin and a bottle of tonic water and made one from scratch, but we're on a budget here, dear viewer, so I brought a premix can.
And this feels almost classy. It shows that Scott does have a preference, and while it's not exactly gourmet, it does show a shred of refinement. It's a reluctant gourmand point for Scott's most intentional decision.
The very last thing Scott consumes is a cup of hot cocoa, given to him by Wallace. So I'm making myself a lovely cup of hot chockey and trying not to spill it into my lap.
Now, hot cocoa doesn't scream gremlin behaviour. It's warm, comforting, and Wallace clearly offers this to Scott in times of need. It's actually quite sweet, but here's the thing. He spills it in his lap, wasting the entire drink entirely. Does he even appreciate the nice gesture? It's hard to say, so for this one, we'll stay neutral. It's neither gourmand nor gremlin, just wasted potential.
Scott Pilgrim's food choices, or lack thereof, are a perfect reflection of his character. Selfish, lazy, and immature. He doesn't think about food unless it's handed to him. And even then, it's all basic, uninspired slacker staples. Sure, he gets the occasional gourmand point for effort or intention, but let's not kid ourselves. Scott Pilgrim is a certified food gremlin. Here's hoping that by the end of the film, with his newfound self-respect, he learns to respect food too, and maybe even take Ramona to a nice restaurant.